If you want to save time and still get accurate results, then partner with 4 Pillars Research, proud sponsors of PI Perspectives. We specialize in uncovering insurance policies that can make or break your case. From identifying unknown policies to uncovering accurate policy information, we streamline the process so you can focus on your case. Partner with 4 Pillars Research and unlock the full potential of your investigations. Visit researchfpr.com to learn more.
Looking for an insurance agent that puts you first? Every PI business is different. That's why OREP Insurance can shop multiple markets to ensure you get the best coverage to meet your unique business needs. OREP's model is business by the golden rule, and for over 20 years, they've built their business by putting their clients first. So come enjoy a fast online application and same-day certificates of insurance at OREP.org. OREP has coverage for armed investigators, executive protection, and even has a separate policy for security firms. The application takes less than 5 minutes, so visit OREP.org today. OREP.org.
We're proud to announce a partnership with InvestigatorConference.com. This free site tracks all the live events in the industry. Want to plan out your travel schedule to see what events are happening in the next few months? Are you hosting an event? Send them an email to add the date. Visit the site today. That's investigator-conference.com. Investigator-conference.com.
Welcome to the new episode of PI Perspectives. Today we look at doing surveillance work in one of the busiest cities in the United States. This city has more visitors than actual residents. We're talking Las Vegas, and we're chatting with Vegas PI Jennifer Knight. Jennifer talks about the challenges in this environment and how she's grown her business. Please welcome Jennifer Knight and your host, New York PI Matt Spaier.
And welcome everyone to the next episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today, I got a guest here that I've been kind of wanting to talk to for a while. We've seen each other around at different conferences. We bumped into each other in Philadelphia at the IntelNet conference, and I said, it's about time we chatted, and thankfully you were up for it. So Jennifer Knight from True Investigations in Las Vegas, I want to welcome you to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so great to have you. You and I actually have a little bit of a history that one of my first speaking gigs was for California Association of Licensed Investigators. And you were also a speaker at that particular conference, which was not in California. It actually happened to be in Las Vegas, which I think was 2019. Does that sound about right?
About right, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I got, Francie Kohler contacted me and said, hey, we'd like you to speak at Cali. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's a huge honor. I love California. Tell me where to sign up and how to get this going. She says, well, good news is you're speaker. Bad news is it's in Las Vegas. It's not in California. So what are you going to do? So let's talk about your background a little bit. So True Investigations, you're operating out of Las Vegas. How did you get into the business? How'd you end up doing what you're doing?
So it started about 20 years ago. I was a senior in college at University of Las Vegas. And I needed to do an internship for my senior project.
Okay.
And I did not get my application in time to the FBI. I was trying to get into the FBI to do surveillance, and not getting my application in time completely changed the trajectory of my entire career.
Wow.
I opened up the phone book. That's how it was 20 years ago. I opened up the phone book, reached out to some of the local PI firms here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I only had one investigator call me, and that investigator ended up being my mentor. He took me in on an internship, and within a month had me on the payroll. I completed my senior year, graduated, and he asked for me to stay on board with him, which I did. And I never looked back. I've been
Right.
here for since. And he also encouraged me to start my own firm. He kind of started poking me in 2010 and 2014. I completely started True Investigations, and I stayed on with him and just kind of changed my role within his firm.
Sure.
Started becoming, went into management for him, and then started actually just running his firm for him while he started stepping back. And then he eventually retired, and here I am.
Wow. Yeah, it's always a journey to do it. And I think one of the hardest things to do is to like take that step, right? Like you're afraid, like the fear of failure. And I remember when I started, and I'm 21 years in, so we were kind of getting started around the same time. Um, I'd borrowed some money to get going. I kind of knew what I was doing, but didn't really know. I didn't have a law enforcement background, and I just knew I wanted to do something I went to school for, and I got my degree in criminal justice. And I kicked around a little bit for a couple of years, and then I had this opportunity to one of my mentors started a PI business, and I was like, "Hey, kind of the same thing. I want to see what you do." Because the opportunity that presented itself to me was actually working for an attorney in house. So he's like, I want you to be my investigator because the guy I use never returns his the pages, right? So you talk about phone books, I'm talking about pagers. We're keeping it old school. So yeah, I had gotten that opportunity to do that, and then 4 years in, it was okay, am I gonna continue to work for this guy? And my wife was really like, what happens when he retires? What are you going to do? Somebody to hire you to be their in-house investigator? Like, and me thinking there weren't really many opportunities out there to do that was like, yeah, that's not going to work. However, now I know that there are some firms that do that. But just go ahead and starting my own thing. So I think like the fear of failure, fear you can't do it is something that holds people back from taking that chance and understanding that it's okay if it doesn't work out. And it almost didn't work out for me. I was about 6 months in, I was almost done. And I just, things took off at that point, and I haven't looked back since. What was your experience like when you were transitioning into kind of doing your own thing?
Um, Fortunately, I was lucky because I was running the firm for my mentor already. I had already had a lot of established relationships with his clients.
Right.
So when the transition happened for me, we didn't really skip a beat. It was, yeah, I was able to just kind of pick up some of his clients and, I mean, he's the one that trained me. They loved the way he was doing business and how he was operating. And I just adapted those same rules, procedures. And so we really didn't skip a beat. And again, I'm super thankful and blessed because of
Yes.
that opportunity.
Great opportunity. So did you have other people working for the firm, or was it just the two of you?
No, we have a full operating staff. We have about 18 employees.
Wow.
And so when he retired, I just kind of took his employees on. And again, just did not want to skip a beat. So everyone was able to continue working. And
So what was that like not having that law enforcement background, and you were probably managing people that had that law enforcement background? Did you find a lot of pushback when you were rolling yourself into that management type position?
100%.
That was a loaded question. I kind of knew the answer. Let's talk about some of those challenges. How did you get around that?
Honestly, coming into this line of work back when I did, it was a male dominated industry.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had people who told me they would refuse to learn my name because I wouldn't be in this line of work for that much longer.
It's terrible.
And it honestly just fueled me to keep powering through. I made every mistake possible. I truly did. And
Right.
my mentor really saw something in me, and he just kept encouraging me. And I mean, he literally just kind of threw me out to sink or swim.
Yeah.
And that was his method of training. And for some that works.
Right.
For me, it worked because I learned to adapt to my challenges. And when it comes to the pushback, at the end of the day, we had a product to get out to our clients,
Sure.
and we're either going to do it the way we need it done, or you're not. And if you're not going to be able to be a part of our team, because at the end of the day, we want our clients happy with our work product.
Yeah, it's a genesis, right? You start with this idea of like, okay, this is how we're going to do things, right? You fortunately had a mentor to do it. My situation was I had somebody who was kind of doing it, and they had their way of doing things. But really, when I started to hit my stride, is when I went to start going to conferences, right, and started meeting people, people that were a little bit bigger than my operation, maybe a little more successful, maybe a little more hair in their head, stuff like that, uh, and just saying, hey, what works for you, and learning and like, what does your day look like, and taking those processes and applying them towards how I wanted to run my business. And you morph over the years. When I started my business, I was all about giving people a chance to get in the industry. And when you start talking about sink or swim, being thrown to the wolves, I kind of did that a little bit. So like what I like to do is I like to hire people that had a good customer service background. People that were waiters or waitresses were really great because they knew stressful situations and how to deal with people. And people that had graduated from my alma mater, like that. God, the first 10 years, I don't think I hired anybody who didn't come from my college. And it was a pipeline, and very early on. So I think what your mentor did was good, because that's how you find out where someone's heart truly is, right? Do they really want to do this? Are they smart enough to do it? Right? Because you got to be able to connect the dots, right? It's not a button pushing job. It's not oh, well, hey, you're just sitting in a car waiting for somebody to come out of a building and taking pictures. It's so much more than that, right? It's knowing how to socially engineer other people to help you get what you need, right? Learning how to talk to people. And I'm sure in Vegas, that's a big, big part of what you guys do, being able to kind of live in that environment and kind of balance everything. I would guess. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when it comes to being able to communicate, when it comes to cases here in Las Vegas in particular, we deal with a lot of those domestic cases
Mm,
where communication is key.
yeah.
And you're dealing with people that have so many emotions around it. And you need to know how to navigate that with them and do it in a way where you can still get your job done, but your client's happy.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest challenges too, when you're dealing with folks that start to work with you, and are coming from maybe a post law enforcement career, federal government, you name it, right? Where they've been trained and they've had this 20-year plus career, and then they have just an idea of how things should be done. Or yeah, I know this guy's guilty, this is the way I know this is the way it happened because I'm awesome at what I do. And I understand everything, right? So you got to like roll back that attitude, and you got to like reteach somebody. Like one of the biggest challenges I had was teaching um, my staff the difference between a criminal case and a civil case. It's not guilty, beyond a reasonable doubt. You're trying to understand, responsibility, like liability, who is negligent, like the difference between a crime and negligence, huge, right? And you got to be able to understand that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and it's like I said, when you have the right person and throwing them to the wolves like that is pretty much a really the sink or swim method's awesome because you can tell very very early on.
You can. And again, he just saw something in me because I've asked him many times, like, why did you keep me around? Because
Right.
I made a lot of mistakes. Thankfully, none of them were extremely detrimental, uh, but I made mistakes.
Sure.
And it was how I recovered and how I implemented moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he told me. It was like, it was how you um, handled those mistakes, how you implemented them on the next case. But he just said he saw something in me, and at times I didn't see it in myself, but he
Yeah.
sure did. I
Yeah.
think,
There's reliability, accountability,
yeah.
methodology. Like these are all things that are important, right? You may not be the best at what you do. Maybe you make mistakes, but you're good at following instructions, right? That's a big part of it, right? When you're running a team, and I'm sure you can't do a job in Vegas without having at least 2 to 3 people on the team. Like you need people that can think fast, people that understand direction and
Mhm.
are going to follow, a the way that things are supposed to be done, knowing that you want to deliver a product, right? You talked earlier about, we're service industry, we're delivering a product. You got to deliver it in a way that's actionable. What does that mean? That means that you got to deliver it in a way that they can actually use it in court. That's going to advance whatever they're trying to prove, whatever their theory is. You got to be able to advance it in a way that's admissible, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm sure that's one of the balances that you have to deal with in a city like that, right? Sin City, that you got to stay within the light of being able to deliver actionable, findings there. So what does that look like? How does a project come together out there?
Well, in the state of Nevada, we are a no fault state. So when someone's calling looking for us to do surveillance on a spouse or significant other, knowing exactly what they're up against on that case intake is super important. Where are they coming from? Most of our clients are calling from other cities and states
Hmm.
because their significant other is coming to Las Vegas for work, for
Right.
play. Um, so when they're like, "Hey, I need this to prove whatever," um, I do ask, have you talked to an attorney? Does your attorney know that you are hiring a private investigator for this particular trip your significant other is planning?
Right.
And knowing that information is crucial. Sometimes the attorneys want to speak with me directly or with the investigator who's working their case, and that's fine too. But when the case comes in, we get as much information as possible, knowing where the person is staying, what flight information they have is crucial because it's a needle in a haystack if we don't know that information.
Sure.
So getting as much information as possible.
Yep.
The day of, we are monitoring flights, making sure that there's no delays. Our team, it is usually on average a 2-person operation. Sometimes we'll throw a third person in there as well, depending on the time of year. So if there's a huge convention in town, airport's packed, I might throw in a third person in there
Right.
just to navigate that. Again, it just depends. But once we get the person, they've landed and we've identified them. The airport is a tricky area because you don't know. You don't typically know how the person's going to leave the airport. Are they getting a rental car, which is located off property?
Yeah.
Are they taking a Lyft or an Uber cab or a shuttle? Is the property they're staying at, are they sending a limo to pick them up?
Right.
Typically, that's not information that our client can provide to us. They can say,
It's
well,
hard.
he or she typically takes this, but you never know. So you have to be prepared. And knowing the lay of the land is super important as well, because if you know they are starting to head to one side of the airport, you kind of have an idea. You can narrow it down. Okay, they're going to either take a cab or they're getting a Lyft or an Uber.
Yeah.
If they're heading to a
Understood.
different area.
Understanding the environment, I think, is key.
Yes.
Have you ever had situations where you start the operation from the state of origin, where you've dealt with a team locally, let's say from Chicago, and
Okay.
they're on the flight with the particular individual, and they hand it off to you when you get there? Do you run into those situations?
Yes, we have. So that typically we have to get a ticket just to get through security so we can be at that gate. So it's usually handed off at the gate. Sometimes they will follow them through to the baggage claim and then we don't need that ticket.
Right.
But yeah, we do that actually quite a bit.
Right. Your frequent flyer miles.
They're actually not bad.
How do you think you get to the conferences, right?
Right.
The miles. Yeah, that's you got to be forward thinking on these things, right? So there is a methodology, right? A way to approach things, but sometimes you got to think on your feet as well. And I think having that knowledge locally of what's going on, where you can go or where you suppose this person is going because they're at that particular point at the airport, like those are all key things and it's important things. If you're an investigator who's following somebody into a city you've never been before, like those are a lot of unknowns. I know Mike LaCourt, who obviously I do business with him. They run operations internationally. Like they'll have a job that may start in France and could end up in Italy, and now it's like you're starting to trying to figure out how you can do those things in those particular countries. Forget about a state. Now you're talking about countries with different laws is always interesting and it fascinates me. And there is methodology. There is a way to doing things and putting a team together and doing it. It's fascinating. Really, really interesting stuff. So would you say majority of the business you guys do is that like surveillance work or do you do a good amount of like desktop research or other types of research too?
Yeah, my firm does a good amount of both. We have a surveillance department as well as an SIU department. So we do a lot of both. And again, a lot of that surveillance work is domestics because of the state we are in. But we also get a lot of workman's comp and insurance fraud stuff too.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that kind of stuff happens there also. It's not all
Everywhere.
houses. All right, it's a good place to take a break. I think we'll step out. When we come back, I just want to keep digging into life in Sin City and trying to make a buck as an investigator, what that looks like. So we'll definitely pick this back up when we get back. But everybody sit tight and we'll be right back.
Are you drowning in fees with your current provider? IRB Search offers the highest quality data at the most competitive prices. Founded by investigators for investigators, IRB is tailored specifically toward helping you close your cases. We're currently offering PI Prospective listeners an exclusive 30-day free trial of our system. So simply go to irbsearch.com and apply using the promo code PIP30 to claim this promotion. Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Satellite Investigations has launched its new website full of great new content. Matt and his team have released some great informative blogs. Make sure you log in to LinkedIn and follow Satellite Investigations for the latest content. Over the past year, our industry has been the target of foreign governments and agencies that have attempted to recruit unsuspecting investigators to gather intelligence or immediate expatriates. PI Perspectives is teaming up with the Federal Bureau of Investigations to get the word out about this ongoing crisis. If you've been contacted by an individual or company that might seem suspicious, please contact the FBI at tips.fbi.gov. You can also contact the New York field office at 212-384-1000 to report suspicious activity in any state. The link is also in the show notes. Even if you completed a job and it still doesn't sit right with you, you can report this activity. The only way to stop this trend is to work together. So let's do it.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. We are here with Jennifer Knight from True Investigation. Jennifer, I want to welcome you back to the program from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and sharing with us the trials and tribulations of the local investigator in one of the busiest cities, transient cities, I think is probably a good way to put it, right? Most people that are there don't live there. They're coming in for a short amount of time and doing what they need to do. So let's talk about that pre-surveillance investigations and how important that is in your operations. I would assume when someone contacts you, that's part of the package, right? Being able to do that pattern of life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when someone does contact us to do surveillance, getting as much information from them as possible about their significant others' plans and what they're planning on doing while they're here in Las Vegas, what their agenda is while they're here.
Right.
Getting the airport information is crucial because if we don't find them at the airport, sometimes the person doesn't know where they're staying. And
Right.
not knowing that, at that point, we're done. We've completely dropped the ball and we don't have any work and we have an upset client at that point. So
Right.
the airport's crucial. If you know the place where they're staying, you might be able to pick them up there. However, I always tell my clients this one case that I work where we were successful at identifying her at the airport. And I followed her to a property where she walked to the check-in desk. She checked into her room. She turned around, left the property, got into a cab, and went to a completely different property where thankfully, I was able to stay with her, but she spent the rest of her week at another property with someone else. And so she had the room, she checked in. So when her significant other called the hotel looking for her, they would transfer him to her room and just never answered. That's a great example of being able to pivot on a moment's notice because it completely shocked me. My partner at the time was actually still trying to get from the airport and get parked at the property. And so it was just me because it happened so quick.
Right.
And was not expecting her to leave the property because 99% of the time people check into a hotel, they go up to their hotel room and they're in there for an hour or so and then they come back down and they do stuff. So completely caught me off guard, but
That was the somebody who definitely had a plan. That she was not going to a knitting convention. I don't think there was crocheting going on.
No.
But that's mens rea. He definitely had a plan in place. Check in here and then go to the other place. I wanted to say that I've never seen that before, but I may be able to one up you because we had an operation we were working on. Person came into a city, checked into a hotel, and then proceeded to hop on a plane to another city. And we had the tail information of the plane and trying to track the plane and figure out exactly where this person was going, having a general idea of where that person was going, and then having local investigators lined up within the 2 hours that it took them to fly to that particular place. Like, you want to talk about like craziness?
Yeah, that's stressful.
It happened. Oh yeah. Yeah. I definitely, I'm not, this isn't my bread and butter, the surveillance business. It's not really what I do with satellite, my business. I do touch on it a lot with Conflict International, the other company I work with. So I get to see some of that stuff, but every now and then we'll get an inquiry for matrimonial stuff. And I typically don't use my own people to do it if I'm managing an operation. I'll use people in New York that I know that do that kind of work and just project manage it. Um, but yeah, we had that one situation that like it was supposed to be, I think it was like Philadelphia and then ended up in New Hampshire, and it's like, wow, okay, who do I know in New Hampshire? How do I get this going? Like boom, 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 boom. And we were able to do it. And a lot of that goes back to the associations and having relationships with
Yes.
people, which is why it's so important to go to these things, right? So I know, like, if I need something in Vegas, I'm gonna call Jen because I know Jen. Like, a Telnet member.
Yeah.
We've spoken together at um, Cali, right? And even like there were things where contacts, right? Hey, I'm here in New York. I need something in New York. You're in Vegas. Maybe you have some contacts for New York that could help me on things, right? Those are conversations you and I have had without getting into detail, but like those, you build on relationships with people that you have, and that kind of opens the spectrum of what you're able to cover, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think I've shared this with you before. The associations that we belong to, I've always, because my mentor was a member of these associations, and I've always utilized that as a resource. But it wasn't until as of late that I actually started participating in these conferences, and to see how everybody truly wants what's best for everybody,
Yeah.
and they all want to help. It's it's just foreign to me. That's not something I'm used to out here in Nevada. Like,
Yeah.
here, it's every man for himself.
Yeah.
We don't lean on
It's a
each other.
change in attitude, 100%.
It is.
When you were talking before about being female in this, and oh, I don't need to know your name because you'll be gone in 10 minutes, right? Like that kind of stuff. I remember specifically having conversations with Brianne Joseph, who's out of New Orleans. Shout out to Sly Fox. When she got set up, people like she'd go to investigator events. They wouldn't even take her business card,
Yeah.
right? And she could have like been hurt or upset by it. She wasn't. She pissed. And she was like, you know what? I'm going to put these people all out of business. Like, I'm going to build my business to the point where, they're going to be screwed because I'm just going to corner the market and take over the world. And, yeah, here she is, I think it's 15 years now, 17 years maybe. And she's killing it,
Awesome.
which is great. And, listen, if you're a male and you don't see the value in having a female investigator, like you're a dummy, because especially in the surveillance work, because I never see it coming.
We never do.
Never see it coming. It's like you have this idea of like someone's watching me, and you're looking for somebody that looks like me. Where's the bald-headed guy, the front cop? I'll just have my eyes peeled looking for him. Not knowing that the female operative in the cocktail dress is the one that's actually watching you. It's great. I mean, even in New York, like I've had many female employees over the years, and it's great. It's just another tool. Being able to have access to that. So. And I'm not even going to talk about the ability for a female to actually do research over a male and just how much better you guys do that. I'm not going to touch that one. So, yeah, we guys tend to put things in boxes. So I'll just leave it at that. And sometimes you got to step outside the box. But yeah, it's good having that diversity in the way to do things. So would you say like your clientele is primarily law firms? You had mentioned that you were getting hired or speaking to directly with clients. So what would you say the percentage is?
Yeah, I would say law firms and insurance companies probably my main clients are about 80%.
Yeah. I tried not to deal with the regular public. It's tough, man. So I guess sometimes you have to. If you're getting started, you take whatever you can. But
Right.
for me, I kind of made that decision. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna kind of stick to this comfort level. But sometimes, when you're dealing with matrimony or you're dealing with a fraud type case or things like that, like you have to deal with the regular person, right?
Mhm.
What we try and do I do this with conflict a lot, is we get a law firm involved, right? And you have the person as the billing client, like the billing party, and you have the actual client as the law firm. And the reason we do it that way is to protect that confidentiality of the work that we're doing, right?
Mhm.
One reason. Second reason is I don't want to take instructions from crazy person who's going to burn through my retainer because they have no idea how this all works. And I want to have back and forth with the attorney who's actually litigating the case and has a theory that they're trying to prove. So if I'm busting a budget because John Q. Public thinks this is important for their case, but the law firm says, no, this is what we need. Well, if I already burned the budget on the other stuff, there's nothing left to try and prove your theory, right? So that's
Right.
kind of the thought process. Has that been your experience also?
100%. And I do try to deal with the lawyers directly for all of those reasons you just stated.
Right.
However, that's not always the case.
Not
And,
always possible. Yeah.
when you are dealing with that general public, it really comes down to setting boundaries.
Boundaries,
And
yep.
making sure your client understands that, because at the end of the day, they want those results. And I am not going to be able to get those results if you're calling me and you're texting me, because I'm going to be focused on you. So I make sure they understand I will update you when it's safe, when it's possible. And I'm also very strategic when I update with certain information.
Sure.
I'm not before I get the shot of this person doing something they're not supposed to be doing. I'm not going to call or text my client that until that's all been collected.
Yeah.
And I'm able to do it. And I'm able to spend that time with them on the phone, because typically the phone starts ringing as soon as that message is sent.
Sure.
Setting those boundaries is super important. And then it's also, again, it just comes down to communication.
Yeah.
What do they define cheating as? Because everybody has a different definition of that. And
Well, what does the state define that as, right? What is how much? What do you need to actually prove, right?
in their state, if it is litigated and if they're going through a divorce and they have an attorney, but again, that's not always the case. Sometimes it's they just want to know, is their significant other out here doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing?
Such a hot potato. I don't like touching those.
Yeah.
It never turns out the way I wanted to.
In my day, when I
Yeah.
was really doing a lot of surveillance, I actually thrived doing surveillance, doing domestic surveillance. I loved it. It was an adrenaline rush. And at the end of the day, it was about getting those results, whether it be good or bad. We observed, we reported what we saw,
Tough.
and I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy the delivering of the bad news, and I did not enjoy the emotional clients. But again, it's a delicate dance, and if you can manage it, it's okay. You can keep those clients in line.
Congratulations, you're not a creep.
Um,
You take no pleasure in and all that stuff.
no,
Yeah.
not at all.
I used to like,
Observe and document, right?
yeah.
Document.
I would get frustrated. The attorney I worked for before I started my own business would do matrimonials every now and then. And man, like I would catch people all the time. And then there'd be this reconciliation. And then the offended party would be back probably a year later, maybe 6 months. They're at it again. Go back out and get more info. It's like, oh man, didn't you learn your lesson the first time? Like this person is no good. You get that kind of
It was quite a bit as well. And I just look at it as, to each their own. It's
Yeah.
not how I would necessarily be in a relationship with someone, but to each their own.
There was a time that I had done a job for this guy was a pilot for one of the movie studios. And so he was flying around all over the place. He was away from home. And he had thought his spouse was up to something, and we ended up basically catching the spouse doing some stuff at a park with somebody she went to high school with. I guess they were connected on Facebook or whatever. And we had the money shot, and we had everything that we needed there. and talk about delivering bad news and all this. And this guy, I felt so bad for the guy because he had paid for the investigative work through his retirement fund. He like cashed in some of his retirement money early to do it. And it wasn't even like he just needed to know. It was like one of those deals. But then after you delivered the bad news, like I became the counselor. Like this guy, he was like calling me up constantly. Where it got to the point I was like, hey man, like I'm not a trained professional. I really think you need help. I think you need to like call somebody and talk to somebody. And I'm going to terminate our relationship here because it's going in a direction that I don't feel comfortable. You know, I'm not a doctor. I can't,
Right.
I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't give you that closure that you need, but you obviously need some closure. And it's unfortunate, man. Stuff like that happens sometimes. It's not good.
Yeah, I've had a few of those where I've done the same thing. You just have to set that boundary with them and let them know that they need to reach out to someone professional to talk to.
It's like we're bartenders.
More times than not, I don't have that, thankfully.
Yeah. So I would assume like your team members, when you're out doing surveillance work, have like at least 3 or 4 different outfits for different things that they'll need, right? Is there like a
Yeah.
big?
Yeah, because when we literally have, well, I used to carry a tote. I had a tote of different outfits and things that I would need because people come to Vegas. They don't come to Vegas to spend time in a hotel room.
Oh,
They're pool parties, then they're going back to their room, changing, going to nightclubs. So they're constantly going to different environments that you, as the investigator in the field, have to be prepared for. So having that 2-3 person operation, knowing when someone leaves the pool to go up to their hotel room and you know that they have dinner in 2 hours, well, as soon as they get up that elevator and go into their room, one person's manning the elevator and the other person's going and changing. And then when they get back, they're rotating, going and getting changed for what the next part of the evening is going to entail.
crazy.
It is.
I would also wonder about, the equipment that you're using to capture whatever it is you're capturing and having to go through like a metal detector to get into a certain event or whatever. Like what's that like? How does that work?
Well, nowadays, I mean, cameras are so small and they blend in with things. Like, I mean, or my covert cameras they're iPhones.
Right.
They're an actual iPhone. So now it's fine, but back in the day, yeah, it was a little difficult. But again, you're out in Vegas, you blend in as a tourist, so you have a camera in your
Right.
in your purse or in your bag.
Not uncommon to have the camera.
Not uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that's, setting up that scenario, which is why like, the male female party, like team is good. Yeah. We're a couple.
Yep.
Yeah. We're doing these things, or it's like, yeah, I'm going to pretend I'm taking a shot of my spouse there, but I'm really aimed behind at the, person behind them, who's canoodling in the corner, like that kind of stuff. Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my main partner that I worked a lot with was a male, and it was for that reason. We just blended in. He knew how I worked, I knew how he worked, and we were great together.
That's great. It's always good when you can do that. Yeah, technology has definitely changed over the years. What would you say is the one thing that's been technology wise that's come out in the past 10 or 15 years that you're like, wow, this has been a game changer for us?
Listen, I started surveillance when we used cameras that had actual tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And so going from tapes to just a memory card has been a game changer.
Yeah.
Having to sit there and put the tapes in and hit record and play at the same time, just old school. So I would say that has been a huge game change for us.
Yeah. So I remember doing we used to do surveillance from retail. We'd follow around these plumbing trucks. These guys were stealing time, right? So the owner of the company wanted to know when the guys went out on their routes, if they were actually going to the routes, if they were going somewhere else, things like that. So the company I work for, this is my first job out of college. They were super cheap and they like weren't into the two investigator model, you know. So I'm driving around Manhattan in a car, a company car, with not even with tinted windows. And my camera was one of those cameras that basically you put on your shoulder. I'm like, I'm holding I got my left hand on the steering wheel. Thank God it wasn't it was an automatic car, and I got my right hand on the camera, like trying to. And how do you not get caught? I used to get caught all the time doing this stuff. And let me tell you something: these plumbers were pissed when they found out. Like, I had guys wanted to like come fight me. I'm like, get out of the car! Like, what are you doing?
Gosh, you were doing surveillance in a vehicle with no tent, like
With no tint and a shoulder camera, not even a handheld little camera. Like, that's how long ago. I'm talking like 1997.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
We've
So
changed. We've come a long way since then.
yeah, and then it was the button cameras or the hat cameras, but the camera never was in the angle that you needed it. You couldn't really see what you got until you were done. And you're
Right.
like, oh man, I got the money shot. No, the camera got tilted because you tapped your hat in the wrong direction and you didn't get anything. You know, those were the challenges. But yeah, now I think the key fob was a good one. When that one came out, that was just put your keys up on the table and, you know.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think we still have that in our circulation of cameras that we utilize, because there's certain environments where that just blends in and it works for that particular job.
Right. And now you have like the glasses that actually look like real glasses. They're not like obviously like, oh, look at that guy. He's wearing spy glasses.
Right. Yeah, they actually blend in.
Right. It's harder. You can still kind of tell, but it's much harder. And again, if you're looking for somebody that looks like Matt, you'll probably find them. If you're looking for someone that looks like Jennifer, probably not.
If you know what you're looking for, you're going to spot it. You're
Right.
going to spot cameras. That's just how that is. I mean, if you're guilty or you've been, sometimes lawyers will tip off their clients to look for certain cues, and so
On the plaintiff, if it's a personal injury case on the plaintiff side, 100%. I'm one of those people that are coaching people what to look out for. And you know what I've been getting a lot? I've been getting like, it's probably happened maybe 5 or 6 times in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'll get a plaintiff client call me and say, my client is being harassed by a surveillance team. And here's a license plate. Can you run the plate for me? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Let's run the plate. Let's see who's doing a terrible job. Let me know let me see if I know these people. And yeah, it's this like sloppy, real sloppy work. And I'm like, okay, here's the guy. Here's his home address. Here's a guy. He registered a car to his wife, you know, and the attorney's like, oh, I'm subpoenaing everybody. He goes, I'm just going to drop a subpoena on the wife. I'm going to drop a subpoena on the guy. Just make their life miserable. And I told the attorney, I said, listen, they're going to know that you found out about them. They're going to wait 2 or 3 weeks and they're going to pick back up again. And sure enough, I got a call 2 or 3 weeks later and it was a different car, different investigation company. And we're like, come on, man. Like, really? Not good. But it happens. Yeah, it happens. I used to, coming out of independent medical examinations, I'd attend the IME with the person to see what the questions the doctor was asking and making sure that they were doing what they were supposed to do. Because a lot of times what would happen is they'd make the person wait for about 2-3 hours, call them in for like a 5-minute examination, and then write a 20-page report how there's nothing wrong with the person, right? That they did all these diagnostics and all that, which they didn't do. So anyway, that was one of those appointments. And I'd come out and I see the surveillance. As soon as I walk out, I'm like, that's the guy right over there. Go and just, knock on the window. Push along, guy. You've been made.
Made, and you just ruined their day.
Yeah. It's like I had that happen more than once. And you're right, though. When you know what to look for, you'll do it. And again, like maybe I'll get some hate mail now that people are like, why are you burning investigators? But hey, it's a chess game. I'm on one side, you're on the other. And
exactly. It is a chess game.
kind of is what it is. No hard feelings,
Yeah,
just do your job better, I guess.
exactly, right? It just teaches us that we need to do better out in the field.
Right, right. Go to a conference, learn how to listen to a podcast on how to be better at investigations. Um, I think we're getting to the end here. I want to kind of wind down here. Jen, this has been so much fun. I love picking the brains of somebody who's been out in the field kind of doing what you've done and being able to share your knowledge of best practices and hits and misses and things like that. So I really, really appreciate that. What if we could leave here, what's one piece of advice that you could give a field investigator out there, other than don't get caught by the other side?
One of the sayings that my mentor just kind of instilled in me is you're only as good as your last case.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to work that case to the best ability you can, because that is what you're going to be known for.
Sure.
You're only as good as
That's
last
true.
case.
That's true. And that you guys are fantastic. Only lasts so long. You'll get that testimonial, and then sometimes it won't work out the way it's supposed to work out. And surveillance work is tough, because
Yes.
most of the time you're not getting you're not getting that money shot, and I think what's important is the due diligence, just laying the groundwork of doing what you need to do to check the boxes to say, okay, we tried this, that, making sure you're following procedure, right?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you again for coming on and chatting. If folks want to get a hold of you, what's the easiest way to do that?
They can call our office, or you can email me, and I can give that information, and so you can put it here on the podcast for them.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
Okay.
So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch everybody next time on the next episode. Take care.
Thanks for checking out today's podcast. This was a fun chat with Jennifer, and we hope you enjoyed the program. Thanks to 4 Pillars, IRB, and OREP for sponsoring our podcast. Additional thanks to PI Institute of Education, and don't forget about investigatorstoolbox.com, where you can type in Perspectives 50 to save $50 when you join. Also, please follow Matt and Satellite Investigations on LinkedIn. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd like your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And make sure you follow us on YouTube and all your podcast platforms. Until next time, stay safe.